Hello everyone, Grandpa Ron here again. Hope everybody's having a great day. Today I look outside and it's snowing, so this should blow by pretty quick, but it's April and it's snowing, so it must be Montana. Anyway, today we're going to get back to examining the account of Joseph in Egypt. Remember, he was sold by his brothers, and a caravan took him to Egypt, sold him as a slave, and but while he was in Egypt, various things happened to him. We won't recap everything, but ultimately he interpreted some dreams for the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh was so impressed and could see his wisdom, put him in charge of all the land. So he's basically second in command. And he was working very hard, remember, to store up food in 7 good years so that the nation would be ready for 7 years of famine. So Joseph worked very hard as second in command to do that. And the famine did hit. And people all around would have to come to Egypt to get wheat to make bread, and so we're going to see what happens in all of this. Now the scene changes from Egypt to Canaan, where his brothers are still residing with his father, and let's see what happens. This is chapter 42, verse 1. Now Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, and Jacob said to his sons, "Why are you staring at one another?" He said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us from that place, so that we may live and not die." So I guess the brothers didn't know what to do. The father heard there was food down in Egypt, so he's going to send Joseph's brothers down there to buy some grain. All the while thinking that Joseph is dead, of course. We remember that account from earlier chapters. Verse 3. Then 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy grain from Egypt, but Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, "I am afraid that harm may befall him." Remember, Benjamin's the last son of Rachel, and Jacob's favorite. And he doesn't want anything to happen to him. He may have been suspicious that there was some foul play in the loss of, or the believed loss of Joseph. And Benjamin is old enough here to travel. I mean, he's older now, probably in his early 20s. But Jacob's not going to let him travel. Verse 5. So the sons of Israel came to buy grain among those who were coming, for the famine was in the land of Canaan also. Now Joseph was the ruler over the land. He was the one who sold all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed to him with their faces to the ground. You remember the dream that Joseph had, and how it enraged his brothers to think that they would ever bow down to him, their youngest brother at that time. Verse 7, when Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he disguised himself to them and spoke to them harshly. And he said to them, "Where have you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." Probably wasn't hard to disguise himself. He'd been living in Egypt all this time. He was now clean shaven. The Egyptians were clean shaven. He was much older now. So he had taken on probably the mannerisms of Egypt. And as we'll read later, he had an interpreter. So instead of speaking to them in Hebrew, he's speaking to them in the Egyptian language, so they didn't recognize him. Verse 8, But Joseph had recognized his brothers, although they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dream which he had about them. And he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to look at the undefended parts of our land." Now, it may seem that he's yanking their chain and trying to get even with them, and that's probably true, but I think there's a deeper, more sincere, loving motive behind all this, and we'll talk about that as we get further along. Verse 10, then they said to him, "No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies." So they're volunteering more information to appear to be truthful, and they are telling the truth here. But Joseph is going to continue to pressure them. Verse 12. Yet he said to them, "No, but you have come to look at the undefended parts of our land." But they said, "Your servants are 12 brothers in all, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more," referring to Joseph himself. Verse 14, and Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies. By this you will be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here." So he's going to put them to a test. He's going to push them to the limit of stress and frustration, and we'll see how that plays out. Verse 16. "Send one of you that he may go get your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. But if not, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." So he put them all together in prison for 3 days. Kind of like what they did to him, putting him in the pit. And he languished there until the caravan came by and they finally sold him. But they're going to get a little taste of that. Verse 18, "Now Joseph said to them on the 3rd day, 'Do this and live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined in your prison. But as for the rest of you, go carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me, so your words may be verified, and you will not die.' And they did so." So he changed his demand. Rather than all of them staying in prison and sending one back, he's going to keep one in prison and send all the rest of them back. And they had no choice, of course, and they agree. And here we come to the part that I think Joseph had been working toward. Verse 21. "Then they said to one another, 'Truly we are guilty concerning our brother, because we saw the distress of his soul when he pleaded with us, yet we would not listen. Therefore this distress has come upon us.'" It appears that they sincerely recognize their guilt. And there's a hint of sorrow in the way this is written. I think it goes beyond just being sorry that they've been caught, but they realize they were actually wrong in doing this. Verse 22, "And Reuben answered them, saying, 'Didn't I tell you, do not sin against the boy?' And you would not listen. Now comes a reckoning for his blood." They did not know, however, that Joseph understood, for there was an interpreter between them. And he turned away from them and wept. But when he returned to them, he spoke to them. He took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. You can imagine the emotion of this event. His brothers finally admitting that what they had done was wrong. And there's a hint in Reuben's statement that I I told you you shouldn't have done that, trying to kind of escape some of the guilt himself, perhaps, I don't know. But clearly, they've all admitted their guilt, at least, anyway. Verse 25. Then Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain and to restore every man's money to his sack and to give them provisions for the journey. And thus it was done for them. So they loaded their donkeys with the grain and departed from there. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money, and behold, it was in the mouth of the sack. Then he said to his brothers, My money has been returned, and behold, it is even in my sack. And their hearts sank, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, What is this that God has done to us? It's as if they are afraid that somehow they're going to incur some kind of guilt. This isn't normal. Why would our money be in our sack? Somebody's setting us up. But it kind of seems that way, that they feel that way. Otherwise, they would be glad to have their money back. Verse 29. Well, let me back up. But they didn't report it. They didn't tell anybody. They didn't ask, why is our money in our sack? They may have been a ways down the road. So, but they didn't report it. Verse 29, when they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, The Lord of the land, spoke harshly with us and took us for spies of the country. But we said to him, We are honest men, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father today in the land of Canaan. And the man said, the Lord of the land, said to us, By this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take grain for the famine of your households, and go. But bring your youngest brother to me, that I may know that you are not spies, but honest men. I will give your brother to you, and you may trade in the land. Seems to be a reasonable offer. Verse 35. Now it came about as they were emptying their sacks that, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were dismayed. And I would be too. You know, what's going on here? Verse 36. And their father Jacob said to them, You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and you would take Benjamin. All these things are against me. He must suspect that his sons have done something nefarious, because it doesn't seem right that their money's there, and their story is suspect now because another brother's missing, allegedly kept by Egypt, and now they want the younger brother, and so Jacob's a little worried and suspicious, I think. Verse 37, Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, You may put my 2 sons to death if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my care, and I will return him to you. I mean, he wants to get back and rescue his brother. But let's look at verse 38. But Jacob said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should befall him on the journey that you are taking, then you will bring my gray hair down to Sheol in sorrow. So Jacob at this point is adamant, no, not going to do it. Now we're going to see in the next chapter, we'll stop here today, but in the next chapter we're going to see that he does send them back. But it's out of necessity. He doesn't want to. But the famine is going on for a long time. It's not just a short famine. They make one trip, get some grain, come back. God is smart. He's planned this. He knows what he's doing. So this famine is long enough where they're going to have to go back to get more grain. And we're going to see that in the next chapter. But so far, we see the outworking of God handling all of this situation. And looking ahead, ultimately, it's for a grander reason. It's not just to vindicate Joseph. It's not just to make them sorry for what they've done to Joseph, but it's to change their hearts, because these brothers are going to be the root of the nation of Israel. In other words, Jacob's name, was changed to Israel. But these brothers are going to be the chosen people. And the further fulfillment of God's covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And yet their hearts are evil. We saw them as murderers with the Shechemites. We saw them try to kill it. They were going to kill Joseph, but instead sold him into slavery. Very cold-blooded. And God has to change their hearts so that they can glorify him. And this is the initiation of that. They've admitted their guilt. Now they're going to go through some more trials and tribulations in this whole Egypt grain-seeking process, so that when they come out of it, hopefully their hearts will be changed and they will be able to represent and glorify God in all his greatness. So we'll see what happens in the next chapter, going along with God's plan here. Anyway, I hope it's been interesting for you. Thanks for watching this. Hope you'll watch the next one. In the meantime, God bless, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.